two wealthy wags went head-to-head in what became one of the biggest media trials of the decade so far.
This lunchtime, we are finally to receive a verdict in the Wagatha Christie trial. Joining us to look back on the case is Virgin Media News Court's reporter, Deborah Naylor, who covered the trial all along. Now, Deborah, I have to say, it's the tabloid dream having something like this because, of course, the whole case was spawned by leaks, alleged leaks to the tabloids by allegedly Rebecca Vardy. The day the tweet landed, you must have known that we'll show you the tweet now. This is the famous tweet that Colleen Rooney sent. Basically, you must have gone, this is going to go to trial, this is going to be great. Loads of time for me to be raking over this sort of Wagatha mud all over the place. Tell us the background to it for those people who may not know.
Well, this tweet in October 2019, I mean, if anyone remembers, it literally set the internet on fire. This, of course, came from why this was called the Wagatha Christie trial, because in this tweet in 2019, Colleen Rooney said that she had been concerned for some time about personal information coming from her Instagram account being leaked to The Sun. And in this now infamous tweet, she had basically set up a sting operation over a course of a number of months. And if anyone knows how Instagram works, she said bit by bit she had restricted the viewers to her private Instagram account. And she planted 3 specific stories, one about flooding in her basement, another about a gender selection procedure in Mexico, and a third about her returning to television. And in the tweet, she ultimately concluded, she alleged, that Rebecca Vardy was behind the leaks in a very dramatic ... It's Rebecca Vardy's account.
And does that make a difference in this trial? The fact that she didn't say it was actually Rebecca Vardy, it's Rebecca Vardy's account, because it's a civil case, isn't it, not a criminal?
It is a civil case, and it doesn't make a difference, because she has said all along what she that in that allegation she was claiming that it was Rebecca Vardy's account. However, in a pre-trial ruling in this case, and this will be very important in the actual outcome today, well, the judge rejected that. They said that this was a personal accusation against Rebecca Vardy, and of course we heard during the course of this trial, Rebecca Vardy claims that her agent, Caroline Watt, who was ill, who did not give evidence in the trial, Rebecca Vardy claimed that she had nothing to do with this, and this could have been someone else, that she'd multiple people kind of controlling her account. She alluded to the fact it could have been her agent. So that is kind of an important note in this case, that the judge rejected that claim by Rooney. And of course, everyone might forget in some instances, because you might say who's won this trial in the court of public opinion, but it is Rebecca Vardy who took this case again, and she is claiming that she was defamed. So Colleen Rooney has to prove that her substantial claim in that tweet was true to win this case, and she also has to claim that she has to prove that Rebecca Vardy was behind it, not just someone connected to her
account. And that's where the crux of the matter is, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's been a lot of swings and roundabouts, dare we say, in this case. Notably, you mentioned obviously her agent, who isn't able to stand and testify in the case, but there was a mobile phone that went amiss. It got lost in the ocean somewhere.
Literally, it got in the sea.
It got in the sea, and they don't know. So that was a mobile phone that they could never retrieve any evidence whatsoever from. They just seem to be kind of almost like these proper, dare I say, Instagram moments of evidence, didn't there, Deborah? Like that.
Instagram moments, and I think like Netflix moments in this case.
It has to. Someone has to televise this.
There will be documentaries.
And BBC that both signed.
Yeah, there was a documentary cruise in London covering this trial. So I mean, whatever the outcome is today, it potentially will be appealed whatever way it goes.
Yeah.
But I mean, this will not be the last we will hear about this case. But so many things that came out in this trial. I mean, you just could not make them up. As you said, the North Sea, the phones falling in, the evidence from Wayne Rooney when he took the stand, claiming that he had told the then England manager in 2016 that he told Jamie Vardy, Rebecca's husband, to calm down. That Jamie Vardy was meant to relay this to his wife. We had Jamie Vardy outside court rubbishing this, saying it was nonsense. I mean, there was just so many parts of this case that you literally couldn't make up.
Yeah, when you were there, I mean, what struck you about the actual trial and the circus that surrounded it? Because cases in the UK tend to have a lot more noise around them than they do here, and we do have our fair share. But what was it all like actually being in the thick of it all?
It was actually really interesting because there was huge media circus outside. There was so many reporters. I mean, every single day we went down there really early. It's on Fleet Street, the Royal Courts of Justice in London, where actually, if anyone has watched the Netflix show Anatomy of a Scandal, that's where a lot of it was shot. And it's where a lot of the old newspapers are on Fleet Street as well. But there was just hordes of photographers outside every day. There was just so many journalists. And in some senses, everyone was in a bit of a funny space because you had so many entertainment reporters and correspondents who did not cover courts. And then you had a lot of courts reporters like me who are in court every day but are not used to covering this particular kind of trial. So I mean,
what are these people doing around here?
In some ways, everyone was like, what is going on in this case? I mean, you have one of the oldest, the courtroom itself, an absolutely tiny room. I mean, going back obviously centuries, the entire building. And then when you're hearing the evidence in court about social media, and I mean, let's be frank, so much of the evidence is so funny, like the Peter Andre. Poor Peter Andre. It's just stuff you could not make up. So it was a really interesting case to cover and to be there for. And of course, you had both of them coming in every day, and Rebecca Vardy, barring the one day that Jamie Vardy was with her in court, she was arriving in, everyone was looking at the outfits. You had Colleen coming in with Wayne every day, side by side. So it was an absolute circus, and I suppose that won't be repeated today because this judgment is going to be a remote one. It's going to land at midday, so there won't be any of the fanfare outside.
Yeah, I suppose a lot of people wanted that fanfare.
Listen, I'm sure there's still going to be a lot of reaction after. I mean, I think
Sunday papers will be interesting.
Whatever side wins or loses, it certainly won't be the last we'll hear of it today.
Yeah, but when we think about wag culture, do you get the sense that it's kind of become a thing of the past now? Do you think that people are kind of over it, or there's still that appetite, that fascination?
I mean, I think when you're actually looking at this case, you have to remember what it was like back then. What it was like in the early days where you'd Victoria Beckham and Clean Rooney. I mean, it was a completely different culture to probably even what it is now. Probably largely ironically because Instagram has really taken over that, because now we have influencer culture. It has changed dramatically. So even the likes of WAGs, if they want to have a career now, they can probably just do that through Instagram sponsorship deals. They no longer need that kind of tabloid
to the papers.
That tabloid culture that was there at that time. So I think it has changed, but it's just changed to social media. I mean, that really the WAG culture was actually pre-social media or as it was first forming, and things are radically different now. We have kind of Love Island influencer culture.
What sort of money is going to be involved here? Whichever way the verdict goes. I mean, if Rebecca wins, what's she looking at?
So if Rebecca wins, and if the judge basically finds that Colleen's claim was circumstantial evidence and that she was defamed, she could award a substantial sum against her. She could also obviously reject the claim, find in favour of Rooney. There is a third option here in which Rebecca Vardy could potentially win on a technicality, but there could be a very minor
token amount.
But either way, this doesn't come down to money because whoever wins or loses this case, I mean, the sum of damages that will be awarded are probably going to be, tops in the region of about 300,000. This has been a multi-million euro trial over the years. I mean, the lawyers that have represented this women have, represented some of the most famous celebrities. Neither woman needs the money. Let's be frank. It's never going to come down to it. It's about, I suppose you could in some ways say, the court of public opinion has probably already made up its mind, but it's going to come down to one person today making the decision as to, who was right in this case.
Could you call it before you go? Could you call it?
I wouldn't bet on it, no.
Okay, right. On that note, thank you very much for joining us.